not, you know.
There's also all right.
And then, whatever's if whatever, if you have any career news or anything.
You've been on the road a lot, haven't you?
I've been on the road a bit. I go to San Francisco, Cobb's next month.
Oh, we'll talk about that. We don't have to give it too much.
I went to a very interesting museum in St. Louis.
That's interesting.
Out of like found objects, like a wonderland, like a Willy Wonka, but real. And you can buy a ticket.
All right, let's light the candle and.
Light the candle, baby.
I feel like somebody's about to have like surgery with this light.
Well,
I know.
I don't
it's
know.
Intense.
What
I mean,
is
almost
it?
painful.
What the fuck
Do we
is
need
this?
it?
Is this always on?
I don't know. That's
for
not.
For the studio ones we do like this, yeah. When we have Zoom, we don't use that one.
Oh, that's why. Okay. All right.
All right.
This is for the cameras, but if we don't,
I can sit over here, right, Nicole? It's for the.
Fine. Yeah, you're
Okay.
good.
We have a camera because we're taping, right?
Oh, okay. Well, listen. If you need the light for the camera, then you need it. But I just thought it's a touch intense.
I think somebody's gonna give me like a gynecological.
Yeah, this is what Bob Saget saw right before he went upstairs. So light, so bright, so intense.
Hello. Okay, I can hear.
All right, Nick.
You're good to go.
Are we recording?
Yeah.
This is live from the table, recording at the world famous Comedy Cellar, coming at you on Sirius XM 99 Raw Dog and on the Laugh Button Podcast Network. This is Dan Naturman. With me, Periel Aschenbrand, our producer, who is also an on-air personality. Things evolved in that direction, and it's kind of too late to turn back now. We also have with us Dov Davidoff, Comedy Cellar regular. Also, has been on the podcast many, many times. I do want to mention that Noam Dwarman is not here for reasons unknown. We hope it's nothing serious. It likely is not. Noam will drop this podcast for any reason. Because it's really not committed to it.
What a great intro.
Well, those who are longtime listeners know that Noam's devotion to this podcast is
It's questionable.
questionable at best. One wonders why he does it every week. In any case, welcome, Dov.
Yes, sir.
And Dov, by
Thank
the way,
you,
let me
sir.
introduce you to Nicole Lyons, who is our sound person, I guess.
Hello, Nicole.
Audiologist.
Hello.
I
Is
don't
that
know.
what they call it, an audiologist?
That's what I call it.
I like
I think an audiologist is when you go to the doctor and they go beep, and you raise your left hand, and then beep, and they raise your right hand.
It's an audiology exam.
I think that's what an ollie income for.
Ollie and Comfreed.
In any case, Nicole, is this the first time you've met Dov?
Maybe just once casually on the pod, but other than that, I don't think.
Now,
Sure. I can't see.
Nicole doesn't say a lot. She prefers just to be behind the scenes.
Of course, and she is actually behind them physically for the.
But if you have a question, Nicole, you can feel free to ask. Dov, it's been a minute, as they say, in the as the kids say.
As the kids say, a minute, but you never know what they mean by that.
Well, a minute depends on the context.
Context in how you're saying it, and the relationship there is.
Right. If you see somebody every day and you haven't seen them in 2
Yeah.
days, you might say it's been
Could be a minute. Could be a minute.
but it has been a minute since you've been on this podcast.
Cast, yeah.
Can keep us up or get us up to speed
What's
on the
up
life
to
of.
speed, up to speed. Listen, I don't know. I mean, I can't just wander on about people that we know in common because Dan and I have known each other a long time. But in terms of what might be engaging to a viewer, I mean, I've been on the road, but I've been seeing somebody much younger than I am. I'm 48 and she's 22, and I didn't go looking for somebody of that vintage. But in experiencing in having the consideration around where judgment is generated around that gap, and how I would feel if it were somebody I knew that were much older seeing someone younger. I don't know. I mean, how do you guys want to initiate the conversation? It's like, one, I would imagine people see it in the liability column as, if you are the manipulative type, then you have that much more leverage, experience, and wisdom in which to use to manipulate and/or whatever it is that you're into. On the other hand, one could make an argument for it being, reasonably healthy if you have your shit together, and you've been in therapy and read some books, and you're a reasonably decent person. Would it be better if a 22-year-old were dating a 25-year-old skateboarder with an opiate problem? I mean, what is it? What is necessarily better about dating in one's
So-called
closer to one's age?
age-appropriate.
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't faze me at all. I mean, of course,
No, it doesn't. And that's another thing. It's a demographic thing. So 2 of my 5 friends are 25 years older than their partners. So you got Brian Callen and you have Sandy Marks. Both of them are in that range. So it's not uncommon in a certain demographic. And if you saw a man in a movie that had less than 20 years between him and his wife, and if it's Tom Cruise, you'd wonder what was going on, why the old broad was with him. And so there's a cultural, I found it to be an interesting area to mine comedically because it seems as though there is a cultural hypocrisy and then a demographic kind of, there's a certain type of person that would be more judgmental around that than another. And then there's the gender differences. And so it's not just about me. It's a comedically rich area because as women age, whether or not they want to date younger because of probably genetic,
Wait, so you're saying that if the woman were that much older?
Well, look, I don't have any problem with it. I just think it's unlikely that she's going to get a guy that much younger. You know what I mean? It doesn't usually work that way for whatever reason. Doesn't matter to me. Date away.
Well, Marcus Monroe is in that situation where his wife is, and he discussed it on our show, so it's not secret, but his wife is about 15 years older than he is. He actually has a step grandchild.
I don't know.
Wow,
if
that's fascinating.
Is it a step grandchild?
Yeah, her grandchild, and they're married, so it's his step grandchild.
Grandchild. But I should also mention that she stopped drinking at 19 or 20. And so maybe in the joke, that makes us the same age emotionally or something, but it's a very different dynamic when someone went hard, and then if you've had parallels in your life where you both lost your father young and they're these psychological. That being said, there's a big age difference, and it's
And is it something that you're aware of?
It isn't pop culture. I know what you mean, like references. Do you feel alone when you're with the person?
No, not because I think that when you connect with somebody, you connect with them, and those things within the context of the relationship don't matter.
I think you're right, and I think some of the judgment comes from men who habitually look for somebody really young. Like, I'm not standing in front of a bus station, Like,
You're not?
This girl's got her mother. Yeah, exactly. Picking up girls on their way in with no return ticket.
At Port
They're on the way to
Authority?
Iowa. Yeah, short dress. Come on over here, baby. No, I mean, her mother got her MBA at Harvard. It's like, she's not didn't just fall off a bus. I don't know,
Well,
in my specific situation, but I think opening up to the larger consideration perhaps is of some engaging, it's an interesting area.
Well, were I to date a girl that much younger, I would make sure to wear a tweed jacket and smoke a pipe, just because why not push it as far as it will go?
Right to the edge of the envelope.
And I would say, now, honey,
dear.
we're not going to the club tonight.
No.
I gave you those books to read.
That's right. And if you didn't read them, there'll be a price to
we're
pay.
going to the Honeycutts tonight for a dinner. I gave you some reading material so that you will be able to converse. Don't embarrass me.
Oh, that's good stuff.
The only problem I can see with it is if it's a long-term thing, if you're planning marriage or whatever, then you'll be an old man shitting himself, and she'll still be wanting to go to discotheque.
Well, not necessarily, though. Look, nothing's guaranteed. Look,
Nothing is guaranteed.
Bob
but if you're
Saget's wife was, significantly younger than he was.
Yes, and that's exactly the point. And
Right,
he's
I guess
yeah,
so.
I don't.
No, but no, it's
there are
not
other
because
examples.
he died quite young. I mean,
Well, I wasn't quite young. He died.
65 isn't quite young to die.
It's young to die. It's not quite young to die.
God,
It's young to die. He died too young.
I know what you mean.
Was it quite young? No.
what's
I
okay.
Quite young would be 50 and under.
Okay, fine. I can tell you this. That was not when I was in my 20s. I dated several guys who were significantly older than I was, and I don't know. I mean, I think that there's a reason why that sort of trope or if you want to call it
trope
that.
is the perfect word. Trope. People misuse the word trope, but trope is exactly.
How are we defining trope?
Well, trope is
Should I
something
look it up?
like you see in the movies a lot, like themes that come up in pop culture.
So I
It's a
got that
common
right.
theme,
I
right?
got
It's a
that
common
right.
theme in like pop culture.
Yeah.
So we see you go to the
I got
movie.
that right.
So I fucked up quite young, but I got trope right.
Well, quite is more subjective.
That's correct.
trope has an actual definition.
But there's a reason. I mean, there's something really sexy and appealing about that goes in both directions.
Yeah.
I think, in sort of in opposite ways, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you like younger girls too, don't you?
No. Well, first of all, younger girls, they're certainly attractive.
Mm-hmm.
But as I get older, what's young is changing.
Right.
So now 35 is young.
Well, 35 is young.
But
Yeah.
well, it wasn't when I was 25.
Right.
I was 25. It was just a dried up old prune.
Right. Or a MILF.
But for me, the two issues are one of the main issues is also I just don't like people looking at me weird.
But they do that anyway.
Well,
don't they?
I don't want to exacerbate the issue,
Right.
Yeah.
and so people looking at you and do you spend any time with her friends? And is that awkward if you do?
No, I one friend with her friend was dating an older guy. No, it's really not that awkward for me, but I don't lead a particularly fragile life in that context, right? If you're a politician, if you're the head of a company and there's some sort
Right.
of corporate veneer within which you have to kind of, fit in order to not ruffle feathers, and there are real stakes associated with those social circumstances. I don't live in that world.
That's a very good point.
Nobody's looking at me twice in most of the rooms that I go into. I mean, so there is
Also,
no
you
price
look-
for me to pay in that.
Also, you
regard.
don't look. There are people your age that do look quite older.
Yeah, no. Some of if you keep yourself in reasonably good condition, that actually never occurred to me. I was more thinking about what is the actual argument. Like there are many demographics wherein it's relatively common, but for people that experience a kind of a judgment, like. I mean, even me, if I had a daughter,
what kind of right?
if I had a daughter, I'd be like, "What the fuck are you like?"
Yeah,
But
yeah. Which is legit.
I think it's legit. But then if you go further into that consideration, I think it's about there being too much liability associated with the leverage that an older man.
Yeah, I
may
think the
have
potential.
If it's a shithead.
But
Well,
on,
but
but on the
that's
other hand,
true.
when you look at people that murder, that get murdered by their husbands or their boyfriends, they're usually age appropriate.
Oh, that's good.
Often age appropriate. That's right.
So I mean, an older man is going to be
Less
less
likely
violent.
to murder your daughter.
He has a bad back. He
He's got a
can't
bad back. You can chase her around this fireplace and hit her with the thing.
with the andiron.
Yeah.
So yes, there's a potential but there is a psychological manipulation. I think the big problem is I'll just reiterate is that. As a practical matter, if she wants to have kids and you're too old, or if she's 50 and still, viable, wants to do things, and you're, 75 and
Right.
in a wheelchair, I mean,
Jesus Christ.
well, that could happen. I mean, it's more likely. Obviously, you're playing there are 100-year-olds that are still bicycling every day, and there are 50-year-olds that drop dead. Understood. We're talking about odds here.
But for the love of God, I mean, you could walk out on the street and get hit by a car.
I just
It's
said
just
about
probability.
half a second ago, we're playing the odds. So if I had a daughter, I would say you want to marry this older gentleman, fine, but think about the life you want, and if you want to have kids, and if he already has kids, and doesn't want more kids, and all these.
Sure, all of
considerations.
those things are considerations
Yeah,
for sure. In
that's right.
fact, it was why one of my relationships didn't work out because he wanted to get married and have kids, and
Yeah.
I didn't, with good reason. And
But
then
I-
I did anyway. No, I'm just kidding. But no,
Yeah.
but really, because he was
Right.
significantly older than
Right.
I was. But
In this case, he's the one that wanted kids. So you were
Yeah.
at different places in your life.
correct,
Right.
that's right.
Periel's wearing, by the way, her sweatshirt says Periel in huge.
Oh, that's cool. I just saw that. I didn't
huge
see it.
black
Yeah.
Thank-
embroidered letters.
Yeah,
Periel. She's
cool.
like Laverne.
Yeah.
Laverne
Of Laverne
DeFazio
and
always had
Cheryl,
an
yeah.
L on her
Yeah.
shirts, and Periel has a lot of.
Yeah.
She has
Got a
earrings
cool
that say
hat. She's
Periel.
got a
Thank
cool
you.
look. You look
Thank
good.
How many articles of clothing do you have that say Periel?
As many as I can, because when I was
that's right.
growing up, it was all I wanted because
Yeah.
everything said Jennifer and Ashley.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And I just wanted something with my name on it.
Yeah, why not? And then you end up writing a book. Nobody could take that away from you.
It's true.
Is that
true.
a made up name or is it a actual name?
My mom made this up. It's transliterated to Periel from the Hebrew. In Hebrew, it's Periel, and it means fruit of God. But in English,
What do
you
you
can't
know?
pronounce
So
the
sweet.
That's right. Very
Yeah.
sweet.
So sweet.
By the way, I got your email, Dan, of that list of things to translate into Hebrew.
Right.
I got it.
Okay. Periel and I were having I wouldn't say an argument. It was more like me berating her. But I questioned her proficiency in Hebrew.
Of course.
But I don't want to get into that now.
Dan's a professional linguist. You know,
Not a
for those
professional
who
Well, he
linguist.
consistently challenges.
He's got a
Well,
tremendous ear for language.
Because not that I have a tremendous ear. I've spent 20 years studying French. I know exactly what it takes
Yes.
to achieve a certain level in a language. And French is easy compared to Hebrew.
Right.
And it's hard for me to believe that Periel has assimilated the monstrous amount of vocabulary
Right. To really facilitate
to really
nuance.
to really be Periel
Understand.
Why?
in another language.
And
because I know what it took for me to
gather
to get to the level of French that I've gotten, and French is easy,
Right.
and
relatively
I've
speaking.
consistently explained.
In
to
other words,
him,
I've read every single day I probably watch 2 hours of French on television.
Wow.
If I read a book, it's almost always going to be in French.
Wow.
If I see a movie on Netflix, it's always going to be in French. And this has been going on for decades. So if you're telling me that you're not doing this,
right.
and unless you're a genius, and Hebrew's so difficult, I have to be skeptical.
So does it worry you that possibly I'm much more intelligent than you give me credit for, and that sort of makes you feel a little bit insecure?
That doesn't worry me because, however, no, it doesn't worry me
Okay.
because even intelligent people to assimilate. I mean, Hebrew, Dov, is monstrously
I
difficult.
to be very challenging.
Just words like so many words
Yeah.
that are freebies in English.
And aren't the mechanics of reading from right to left?
Well,
also
that's not the
challenging?
difficulty. The
No,
difficulty would be,
that is actually difficult. But here's the
the
thing.
difficulty would be like if you wanted to say, progressive in French, you'd say progressive, and you'd be done.
Yes.
International, international.
you can get-
Division, division.
It's a romance line.
It's and there's thousands of these words.
Yes, understood.
Problematic, problematique.
Oui.
Bayati in Hebrew.
What's that?
Bayatit
Is what?
in Hebrew. Problematic.
Well, I'll have to take your word.
But the thing is that you realize
Construction,
Yes,
construction.
construction, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Destruction, destruction.
Oh, champagne. Yes, of course.
And it goes on and on and on. Whereas in Hebrew, every single one of these words would be some ridiculous word that
Totally
would be
different. No
barely pronounceable.
relationship
So that's
with
why I say.
But
I'm
you're
skeptical.
missing a huge part of this,
Yeah,
which
go
is if you grow up speaking a language.
Yeah, but you grew up with. But you grew up with what exactly?
Hebrew.
No, your parents are American,
My mother is Israeli.
but your father is American.
My father is American.
I've just known so many people, and
Yeah.
first, I know people who both their parents come from a particular
Right,
country,
but because
and they
they
don't
were
speak the.
raised here.
They're raised in America.
Yes.
They don't speak the language.
Happens all the time.
I'm sorry to disappoint
So,
you.
so you're telling me one parent is a native Hebrew speaker.
Correct.
It just doesn't correspond to my experience.
Well, then it must be impossible if it doesn't.
No, it's
correspond
not
to
impossible.
yours.
I just have to say I'm skeptical. But
I'm going to invite you over
I want to
for
hear
a Shabbat dinner.
conversation,
go.
a long, involved conversation
Right.
about a nuanced topic.
Noam Chomsky.
I don't want to hear. It is nice out today.
No, no.
How is your mother? My mother is fine. What's
Pass
your
the
name?
chicken. Yeah.
I'm about
I
to-
have been living in New York since 3 years.
Where's
I'm
the
about-
bathroom?
And you? I have been living in New York since 3 years also.
What am I going to get when I just decimate this fucking idiotic
nothing.
notion of yours? I'm about
You'll
to
get a
call
fr-
my husband
You'll get a free.
and have like
I
a
need- what-
whole
You'll get
conversation in Hebrew.
Well,
with
I,
him.
There's no
I
upside
won't
there.
really know what the conversation is. I need to have an independent arbiter.
Okay.
And if you speak to my satisfaction, you will get
Yeah.
dinner for two at an Israeli restaurant on the Upper West Side.
Okay.
I'm going to bring in Esty to referee.
Oh, I can just have a conversation with her.
Essie grew
Well,
up in Poland, and then
no, she
but
grew up-
from a young age.
She was
She's
born in
You're
Poland,
right,
but
you're right.
I think
You're right.
her
From
strongest.
young enough that yes,
I'll find somebody.
understood.
Maybe that guy that owns the WA.
Could be the
I tell you,
WA,
These
man.
Israelis are everywhere.
They're all
Here's
over
the
joint.
thing that I want to say. I do think that they're.
We're getting back to the younger.
Yeah, I'm not saying that this is you.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that you can objectively
I
understand
can.
why someone would say that there is some, and of course this isn't true for everyone,
No, but overall, I
but
get
that
it.
like there's some,
Power differential.
yeah, that's exactly right. There's some
Yeah.
power dynamic,
Yeah.
or
Yeah. No,
But-
that all adds up. That was sort of part of my consideration. I was really just interested in the real kind of what is the actual argument,
The moral
other than
argument.
the moral argument, other than the general logistics, which are, of course, somebody could be 75, they're more likely to die than somebody who's 50, and that could leave them stranded, or there could be different objectives in terms of child rearing and whether or not somebody's too old, too young. Now, that being said, I was dating before her a 38-year-old software executive, and she would, I would imagine, since she was interested in having children, she would want to have them much sooner, which would have been a challenge for me than somebody. You have more time with someone who's younger. So, I mean, that could go both ways, but certainly it could, any of those logistical, actual chronological elements could create an issue. I was wondering what the moral consideration.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. Nicole, if you have anything to say, you can jump in. Because you're a woman, a 20-something woman, or so, right, woman, yeah.
Yeah, baby, sure.
If you have anything to say, you're certainly welcome to do so.
I don't, but thank you for asking.
Okay. Yeah, as a moral consideration, I think you're on very shaky ground if you're taking an anti-position,
Yeah.
morally speaking.
Right.
Yes, there's the potential for manipulation, but of course you can manipulate, a very good-looking, wealthy 30-year-old can be manipulative.
And so the judgment then
Who's
is on
judging?
shaky ground. Well,
are people
for me,
judging?
no, not in my personal experience, but for the joke, my consideration was where's the funny in it, and where's the cultural hypocrisy? Like, if there is judgment, I've heard it from, I just could imagine one of my mother's MSW friends sort of hissing, and it's not really a concern. But for the joke, I have to create a counter argument
Mm-hmm.
and an argument so that I understand how to put the kind of variables together to make something humorous. Because the humor would be she's dating
Well,
this older
that's the
person
humor
who could
might
be productive.
The humor might be that the people that look down on you have no leg to stand on.
That could be,
And that's
source
where
of
the humor.
Well-
or you could take the easy way and be like, do jokes about, so she's she wanted to go to Disneyland or something like that.
Right.
Well, there's many people that have dated young women have jokes about where they just
Right.
they just
right,
say,
right. I'm
oh
not
my,
gonna do that,
my
though.
girlfriend,
Yeah.
I had to go to her prom or something. Those
Yes,
kinds of jokes.
Yes, of course.
Well, when I was 22, my boyfriend was, I don't know, probably 15 or so years
Yeah.
older than I was, and when he always told me he felt like he was with a runaway.
Yeah.
That's half the fun.
Well,
Yeah.
that because I also looked super young when I was.
Right.
Now there
22.
is
Yeah.
there is the fetish aspect of it too.
Right. Well, I think that's sort of. I think that the morality of it all is really wrapped up in stuff like that, right? Like, look at Lolita. I mean, that
was a kid.
right? But
Right.
that's
That was a
but-
pre-adolescent child.
right. But again, that
That's-
trope
Okay.
is repeated. I mean, 16, 22, 17, 18, like
Yeah,
the
but-
lines start to
But
get
11
blurry.
years old is a touch different. Once you hit 29 as a woman, I mean, you start to form a personality, and
29.
no, I don't mean that. I meant at 29, you could date, in theory, psychologically, a 60-year-old person. I don't know
Sure.
if there's a major emotional. What I'm saying is I've met 29-year-olds that are absolutely as engaging and
Of
reasonably
course.
thinking about the world than dopey, older people.
Of course.
But yeah, on average, I think,
But I think that's where the judgment comes
right.
from.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it's.
I mean, listen, in Yemen, they're marrying 12-year-olds to 40-year-old men. So,
Well, and then you have Mormon communities. I mean, you can go to pretty extreme cultures and find a lot of examples. Maybe even Hollywood's one of them. But
for sure.
But
But like
yeah.
22 and 48 suddenly doesn't seem that outrageous.
well, listen, it's a big hop, and then there's the two individual people, and whether or not when she's been in therapy since she was 15 years old, and we lost our father at the same. Like, there are these parallels that feel reasonable, and because if you develop some facility with like therapy language, it makes it easier to communicate in a way that I don't. but missed the years.
You're not
the
getting
same
any
way.
sort of sexual charge out of the age difference.
Of course not. Certainly not.
You know, there was
listen,
a young.
genetically, there's no getting around. You know, you're drawn to anything. Childbearing age. You know, there's a reason why. You know, we have mores, societal mores, that aren't just contingent upon what we're attracted to, what we're not, but what is morally appropriate. Because everybody's attracted to young. You can look up porn data and see where, you know, they're not all heading in the direction of women
Not
that are
that-
58
not-
and older.
Not that you have.
No, of course not. No, never.
Well, there's a reason barely legal
I
is a
did have an old laptop that I
There's
looked
a reason,
around on a bit.
There's a reason barely legal is a category.
It's a category. And there's a...
Well, then again, so is MILF, so is, you know.
No. They have many categories,
Yeah.
but the most popular ones are not many of the other groups.
Right, but that's also because girls are sexualized
Of course.
in our society,
yes, of
right?
course,
I
yeah.
mean,
Well, but they're sexualized for a reason. They're
Right, 'cause
sexualized
we
because
live in a
people
patri-
find them sexy.
no, because we live in a patriarchal society. That's why.
That's part of it, but it's pretty universal, the relative sexualization. I mean, the reason in Muslim countries everybody wears, you know, a burqa in the religious ones is because we know that we would sexualize them had they not been wearing a burqa. To
Right, but the
protect them.
men don't have. Well, I mean, the men don't have to dress like that.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not arguing that it's patriarchal. I'm just saying it's hard to get around a universal sexualization. I think. Is there any culture that doesn't?
Yeah,
There's ones that are less.
yeah. I think there are ones that are probably less, but I think the world is a fucking patriarchy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's rape culture that's.
I don't want to get that.
Well, I mean, listen, you can't talk about fucking young girls without talking about the culture that's sexualized.
Look, there's a reason the cultures are the way they are.
Right.
The
Right.
culture
There's a
is
chicken or the egg
the culture
aspect to it.
is laid over the substrate
The
of human
substrate, that's a good
biology.
one.
No, it's a power dynamic.
Well, but they're both inclusive of one another.
Relating just slightly off topic, but still relating to the generation gap, I wanted to ask Nicole briefly. Don't worry, Nicole, this is a one-word answer. Have you heard of Hogan's Heroes?
I have not.
Oh, I had a joke that incorporated Hogan's Heroes, and I was worried I would
think you're
lose
gonna
the
miss-
younger
I
people.
think you are going to miss them.
I reconstructed the joke,
Okay.
and maybe it'll work the way I
Yeah.
reconstructed
What's
it.
Hogan's Heroes?
I got to think you're going to lose them.
Hogan's Heroes is a show from the 1960s, but it's still
You
available
just lost
on.
Periel.
It's still, yeah. If I'm losing, yeah. I mean, she's.
But that's what I mean.
I mean,
I'm a little
you know,
bit
she's not Sweet
younger.
16.
but that's my point. Is
Yeah,
that if
so
you're
if I'm
losing
losing
her and
Periel,
down,
Yeah, if I'm losing Periel, I'm
that's a
losing.
big, thick part of your
I mean,
demographic.
right? Yeah, I mean, cruise ships it might kill.
Of course, by all means.
Hogan's Heroes was a TV show from the 1960s that played in syndication. I didn't watch it in the 60s. I'm not quite that old, but it played in syndication.
Right.
I used to watch it in college. Lord knows I wasn't doing anything else. You know, I watched. Yeah, so it's a show about a Nazi prison camp, and it's like, technically, it was a Luftwaffe prison camp. I don't know if they were really Nazis or not, but
Yeah.
be that as it may, it was like buffoonish Germans in running a prison camp with American and British and French soldiers, and it was farcical,
Okay.
and it was kind of ridiculous
But where are you
because
going with the explanation?
I'm just.
I
she asked
I
what it
asked
was.
what it
All
was.
right, no, you
So
go.
I'll
I'll
check
leave
it
it at
out.
that. I'll leave it at that.
I do want to say one more thing, if I may, relating to that, which is that I do also think that women are, generally speaking, more mature than men. And that-
especially ones that stopped drinking, got into therapy really young to deal with their own shit.
Probably.
I mean, you're right.
Probably. I mean, because when I was 30, there was this super hot 23-year-old guy who was a model in New York City
Yeah.
who was just obsessed with me. And I
Yeah.
finally gave in and hung out with him. And he was the sweetest guy ever. He
Yeah.
really was. And he was gorgeous. And I
Yeah.
just couldn't tolerate
couldn't do
having a fucking conversation
Yep.
with him.
Yep.
So there is that too.
Oh yeah, listen, if you can't get over that, like if that's there, that's part of it. That's gonna be a problem for both people. That's not a moral problem. That's a personality
He didn't
and
seem
or
to mind.
generational problem. No, he did not mind. Didn't mind at all. He was learning so much.
Well, because he was
So much. He was exploring so many
learning.
things.
He was learning, but you were, you know. So for him, it was all upside.
Right, I guess so.
You know, in that sense.
I also didn't grow up with TV, so I don't have a lot. I don't have a lexicon of references that I need to place time and space. You know, my mother was on comedy. You know, there were no. I didn't grow up with the pop culture kind of sense of phenomenon. But the other thing that I thought maybe was funny and maybe you mind it for a joke was we started watching Braveheart. This is a generational thing. Like she wasn't really sure who Mel Gibson was, and but then apart from that, I realize in Braveheart, that guy's like 45. You remember
In Braveheart.
In Braveheart,
He's 45.
and he's riding around on a horse with no shirt. He's pulling up to ask if he can take somebody out on a date. The life expectancy was like 38 500 years ago. This guy's 45 with no shirt.
What was he
just getting married for the first time?
Was his age in the movie 45? You're saying Mel Gibson in real life was 45?
Mel Gibson in real life,
but in the movie, whatever, he was probably
19. The guy's 45-year-old actor, and he looks it. And he's running around on a horse, and I just thought it was ironic that 500 years ago, and it was the girl was like he had to ask her parents for the right to take her out on a date, and it's like. If you weren't married by the time you were 25, in Scotland 500 years ago, you were, and that guy's 20 years past. 45 then is like 75 now. Anyway, it's a Braveheart observation. I got to get more into Scottish, 14th century Scottish movie references.
Yeah, the 90s for her was like the 60s for us, right?
Yeah, but it hasn't.
Which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, sure. Sure it is.
Look, things show up on my Facebook feed that says, first of all, how do you shut that down? Because like my Facebook feed will say like, Dan, this is 9 years ago this happened. And they'll show a picture of something that I could swear happened last January. I mean, so you could probably turn that off, but it's very upsetting.
I don't go on the book.
But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know.
Hey Dan, 5 years ago, and it shows a picture, and you're like, what? This was fucking 5 years ago? You've got to be kidding me, because you project that into the future, and if that the 5 years or the 10 years happen that quickly,
right? It's scary.
Then
you don't need that feed in your life.
I need to. It's
the opposite of getting an endorphin bump from some social media post, with a bunch of likes. That feed is the opposite.
I gotta shut that off.
You have that in real time when you have a kid.
Yes, you do.
You're like, what the
Yeah, that's
fuck?
your Facebook feed right in front of you.
Every second of every day.
Yes.
And for him, the years are just going by like molasses.
Correct.
Oh,
At that age.
Molasses, so slow, so sweet, so slow.
So sweet.
Yeah.
I did want to discuss. We discussed it last week, but it's worth
sure.
revisiting. Is Bob Saget, who died at 65. 2 weeks ago, I guess it was.
Yeah, I mean, I think for people listening, I mean, Saget occupied this space where he was a guy who had a magnanimous kind of spirit, universally, kind of experienced as such. And he was a guy that had a lot of life, was engaged by comedy, and really enjoyed it and the people around him and doing shows. There wasn't that. Sometimes with an older comedian who's got some dangerous, dark ennui going on. This death, for those of you who aren't familiar with the French term ennui.
I was going to say nice use of the term
of course,
ennui.
Oui, death of the spirit. But anyway, he was the last guy you would think, 65 years old notwithstanding. Like Dan said, it's perhaps not quite young, but he had the kind of life in his eyes that you do not expect to hear that he passed away in a motel room, in a hotel rather. Not he didn't.
I believe it was the Ritz.
Yeah, no, I wasn't a heroin addict in a motel. Yeah, of course, no. Yeah,
I read he lost something I didn't know. I read he lost both his sisters.
Yeah,
I didn't.
Which is pretty horrifying.
Horrible. Yeah.
I also read that he started working for the Scleroderma Foundation before his sister was diagnosed.
Wow.
Which is incredible.
That's a utterly bizarre coincidence, if true.
Yeah. Would you like me to verify that?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I would.
They don't. They're never sure if they want me to, because I don't know if it bothers them more when I'm right or when I'm wrong.
Well, trust but verify. I'm not saying you're wrong.
That makes for a good show dynamic.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying you're telling me that he started volunteering for scleroderma, but what prompted him? Unless there was another, it could be that it's genetic and there was another relative that had scleroderma.
No.
Yeah.
But that's a bizarre thing to volunteer for.
It's very. It
I mean, if I was going to volunteer for something,
well, one would imagine he had a family member.
I think it's likely there was some
I'm
connection.
telling you, Jeff Ross posted about this. He also died, I think, on his sister's birthday. Bob did. There's a whole thing. Jeff wrote all about it. Hang on.
Well, okay, but Jeff, I don't. That to me is not a primary.
Okay, fair enough.
Source material matters.
I mean, if you handed in a university paper and it said footnote 1, the roast master, then you wouldn't get credit
but
for that.
They were best friends.
I understand that, but it does. You have to admit, it sounds a little bizarre
I do.
that he would. Scleroderma, by the way, is what killed the great Lucian Hold.
What is?
Who was?
I know it's a type of
type
cancer.
No, it's not cancer. It's a skin disease, but it affects like the arteries too, and it's a bizarre thing. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but
isn't it the kind of? Well, I mean, do we know what happened to Saget? Do you know what the cause of death
Oh.
actually was?
what? Well, no. I just Googled it, and they're still, for some reason, they still don't
Figure it
have the final diagnosis.
Because when it's that sudden, something like scleroderma, I mean, you would know.
No, it's not
You would know
scler- it
over
wasn't
time.
scleroderma. It
You know,
wasn't
heart attack is the one that.
Yeah,
puts
heart
that-
attack or
that
stroke are
minute.
the leading candidates.
Yeah.
Quote.
This quote from the Roastmaster, though.
No, this is quote from Bob.
Okay, go.
I became familiar with scleroderma several years before my sister came down with it. It began 25 years ago when I met Sharon Monsky, a woman who was to become one of the dearest friends of my life. She was the founder and then CEO of the Scleroderma Research Foundation, a great mother, a woman of 3 who'd been stricken with the disease herself as a young mom. Anyway, you can read the whole thing
I
if
will.
you're
That's that.
interested.
Okay, I will accept that source.
Okay,
I will accept that source. But you understand, Periel, I have to verify.
you can.
as the I have a grave responsibility.
It's a grave.
Do you understand that if people I cannot take the chance of misinformation, and then God forbid something tragic happens?
Listen, I have no problem
Because
proving you wrong
So
and both you and Noam
Well,
wrong over and over and over
I don't
again.
think that's what happens generally. And you're not proving me wrong, because I never said, Periel, that is incorrect. I said that sounds a little bit.
That sounds real
as-
dicey.
It sounds dicey, as I think you would agree. And I have a responsibility
Yeah. Okay.
to the people.
That's it.
To the people.
Yeah, to the
It
people.
does sound a little questionable.
So I had to
think-
verify. That's all.
But I
you
think-
can't just say,
Dan is the Walter Cronkite of the Comedy Cellar. We all rely on him for truth and balanced information.
You
Truth.
understand. If your
I
son
do.
comes home and says, Mommy, I don't know. Try to come up with an example. But
Yeah, of course.
Mommy, I have, I need this particular medication because I have this particular disease. You'd say, I Googled it and I diagnosed myself with, you'd say, well, let's go to the doctor.
go to the
Let's,
doctor.
Right,
let's
right.
go, let's.
Are you
Forget
the
what's
doctor
going
in
on.
this scenario?
Yeah,
That's
well,
the
I
physician.
no, but I'm saying you can't just take
So you're
people's
the
word
young
for
woman.
shit when
He's the physician.
when there's things at stake, and what's at stake here is my reputation as a podcast journalist.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Okay.
And speaking of which, Joe Rogan has gotten some blowback because of some of the things that he said in his show regarding COVID and vaccines, and now that people signed this long letter or whatever, like 150 science people or whatever, saying that Spotify should, I don't know what they want Spotify to
Right.
pull them off the air, and give them an ultimatum and tell them,
An ultimatum?
that's right, an
That's
ultimatum.
right, baby. Play on the ultimatum.
And say you got to stop this shit, but that brings up questions of free speech, even though free speech, as we know it as a constitutional concept, is about the government, but as a wider concept about,
Well, aren't they saying that he's spreading misinformation? Isn't
About
that-
monoclonal antibodies and
Well, he may well be
ivermectin, that
spreading
kind of thing.
he might well be spreading misinformation.
but you're
que-
saying that's fine.
I'm saying, I don't know if I'm saying that's fine. I'm saying, how much do you want people to monitor what everybody's saying?
I don't know. You
And
just
how
took
much-
me to task about Bob Saget's
Source
scleroderma.
material.
But I'm not saying you shouldn't have said it. I'm saying it's my responsibility to clarify.
Okay.
Caveat emptor, I think, is the best way to handle these types of things. I think that,
Remind the folks at home what.
well,
the-
that means buyer beware, but in this case, listener beware.
Yes, of course.
And I think that we should educate people to be skeptical,
Of course.
to listen
Yeah.
and to
You know,
verify.
on that note, and perhaps even more interesting than this, I was reading the latest Gladwell book. I mean, as it relates to these things, and we are inclined to believe people when, in fact, and they were analyzing the Bernie Madoff scandal and breaking down what happened.
Yeah.
We're inclined to believe people because evolutionarily, it's more metabolically responsible to group information if I believe you. If I don't believe you, I have to underwrite or deconstruct each individual instance of communication from
Sure.
each individual, which would be an impossible way to run a society.
And to live your life, right?
Right.
If you didn't believe, I mean, there's been
And that's
ample.
why we're so fooled.
Right.
so
But
often,
look,
because
when
we're emotionally We are set up evolutionarily to believe.
Well, there's been ample evidence that if you people follow signs.
Yes.
Like if you
That's right, regardless of whether or not
Mhm.
it makes any sense to follow them.
Yep.
Well, it depends. If the sign is on paper and written in crayon, I'm less likely to follow it than if it's a big green sign on the highway that says "This exit to great adventure."
That's right.
And more likely, if I'm in fact looking to go to great adventure, to get off at that particular exit. 7A, by the way,
It is 7A.
and has
New
always.
Jersey Turnpike has always been better. Nothing better. Such an adventure.
Curb your dog. Don't feed the squirrel.
I was having this argument last night with a friend of mine who will go nameless because everybody knows him, and he's talking about. He's like,
Dove?
no.
Yeah.
He's just ranting about how the lockdowns were bullshit and these people should be, brought up on charges. And it's like, the lockdown might prove to have been maybe not the best move. I don't know.
Right.
But you have to go with the information that you have, and
It's all context.
and you might turn out to be wrong.
Right, but it's whether or not you're having been wrong is looked upon as a lie or something egregious.
or-
should be contingent upon the context in which the decision was made.
If the decision is made in good faith.
In good faith.
And
Caveat emptor, if you will.
well, I don't know if
really.
it's to do with caveat.
Well, the
emptor.
believer beware.
But people like if
yes.
if the decision turns out to be wrong to have gone into lockdown, then people say that put Fauci in jail, or he's
Yeah,
responsible
right.
for the suicides that took place because people were depressed. No, if it was a good faith decision
Right, good
made
faith.
based on all the evidence that we had at that
Of
time,
course.
But I mean, because from what I've read,
Well, when an investment goes south, you don't put the CEO in jail unless there was fraud. If he were acting in good faith and
Right.
got beat by the market for whatever reason, I think perhaps that's a more reasonable analogy.
Well, I think people have a lot of trauma, right, about all of this stuff, and so they're not
Yes.
really.
They're emotional.
Yeah, but also the thing that surprises me is that don't people understand that these people are scientists?
Yeah.
Like they're reacting as they get the information, and the information changes. I mean, constantly.
Yeah, and it feels like the default position should be that if you're a scientist, you are acting in good faith. Whether or not
Right.
you are wrong will be a determination made in the future because we don't know yet.
Right. Right.
And if we choose to be inclined towards skepticism around science, then we're going to be questioning everything that would have been good for us. It's like you have to be a skeptic to a degree, but you also have to lean into the unknown to a degree and hope that the person telling you, I don't know. Listen, be skeptical, but also don't be crazy.
Yes, I mean, and know that there are people that know more than you, and that's oftentimes you have to rely on them. If I take my car to the mechanic, I got to trust that he knows how to fix that car.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm not going to second guess him because I don't know anything about cars.
Right. The problem is that people don't read anymore. They don't think critically. That people are fully getting their information from Facebook.
But I don't know that people were any better 20 years ago.
Well, but the algorithms are better now. You're right. Human nature hasn't been better for thousands of years. People have been making the same mistakes. I mean, if you track markets and market cycles and booms and busts, it's all human emotionality and psychology. Nothing's changed. The tulip bubble in the 1700s, nothing's changed. But the algorithms have changed. The ability to divide people at scale has been altered tremendously through technology.
And that's very manipulative.
Oh,
Right? I mean,
deeply.
you're taking advantage intentionally in order to attain a really sort of
It's market. In order to change bottom line, the reason Facebook's one of the most valuable companies in the world is because they're able to garner the interest of billions of people. And the way they do that is by drawing your eyeballs. And any service you don't pay for, you're the product.
correct.
And so those algorithms, that's what's so scary about AI and, without going into
What's
the
that
singularity.
film, that documentary about social
The social
the social experiment, the social
Oh yeah, it sounds like The Social Network, but it's
Yeah,
not.
yeah,
But it's not. It's like. By the way, Dov, you haven't gotten COVID yet, have you?
Well, no, not that I know of. But my theory, my working thesis is that I've had it. And that I didn't test for it because I wasn't traveling anywhere. I mean, if I got the sniffles, listen, if you have it big time, if I got this, I've been, sniffly, head coldy for several times, but I didn't run out,
But I think if you had COVID, I mean, it's quite possible you
I didn't run out and get
Quite
tested.
possibly you did.
I got tested when I went to Aruba, and I got tested when I went to my brother's house for a Thanksgiving thing. So I got tested I had to protect being around groups of people. But other than that, I was,
I mean, it's possible you've been one of the few people that have been able to, kind of move between the raindrops. if you
Well,
will.
possibly, or I had it, and now I'm particularly resilient. I'm vaxxed, and I've had it, but didn't know it. Kind of demographic,
Is this thing over
Is
soon?
what thing over? Well, you're asking us?
Yeah.
Yes.
Spain says yes. Dan says no. Spain says it's over.
The
in that
UK
the next
I-
iteration
no,
will be
no,
looked
no.
at like a flu. At some point, you got to go. Listen,
Noam sent around an email.
Today.
Did you get Noam's email? Were you in his email?
I didn't see it. No,
He
no,
said
I-
about
no, I
some
didn't see it.
Twitter thread by some guy. I don't know who this guy is, but basically he's saying it's over. That Omicron is
Signed the roast master.
the Omicron was the roast master. Omicron is the symptoms are relatively light.
Yes.
The vaccines are very good. And
Does anybody know anybody who's been vaxxed, gotten Omicron, and ended up in the hospital? I haven't heard about.
I'm
one
not sure
person.
any-
I've heard about a lot of
Andre
people with
Leon
Omicron.
Talley died today.
Who did?
Andre Leon Talley?
Of COVID?
Yeah, of complications from COVID.
Who was Andre Leon Talley?
He was, I don't remember, I was the creative director
Were there
of Vogue.
underlying health issues?
I mean, he was a major force in the fashion industry. Huge.
But what was his age and health?
He was
condition?
73.
Okay, that's the answer. When you're 73, you can die from the flu. I mean, it's. I mean, from what I understand, very few people, as a percentage of the.
Well, I
people
think
with
very few
Omicron.
people that got Omicron, whether vaxxed or not, wound up in the hospital. But of those that wound up in the hospital, most were unvaxxed.
Right.
Perhaps,
that's
but
true.
almost
That's
no
Andre
one is
Leon
done.
Talley. You don't know who that is?
No, I'm not in the fashion.
Oh, he's heavy and in his 70s. I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot if you've got some.
Was he
underlying condition.
vaxxed or unvaxxed?
I'm assuming. I mean,
or
maybe
it doesn't say.
I haven't gotten that far yet.
I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not in the fashion industry. I don't think it's like I'm not in like the painting industry either. But I know who Picasso was.
Yeah.
I don't.
But I don't
well,
think I don't know that.
Nicole, you ever hear this
Yeah.
dude? What's his name again?
Andre Leon Talley.
Nicole, any? Have you ever heard of Andre Leon Talley?
Not until today.
All right.
Yeah.
And Dove hadn't heard of him,
Well, I don't know anything.
and I haven't heard of him. So
well, then
you're-
he
you're-
must not be important.
No. Well, your analogy to Picasso, I think, is
Okay, that might be a reach.
a
But
tortured analogy.
do you know who
Tortured.
Anna Wintour is?
Yeah, I've heard of her.
I do as
I've
well.
heard-
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
he
Famous
is
editor,
as
yeah.
But if I hadn't heard of Anna Wintour, I don't think it would be scandalous.
a little bit would be.
And again, I wouldn't. Yeah, but Picasso is,
Okay, Picasso was a reach, but
a reach.
Yeah.
Now I get it. You were trying to make a point, and oftentimes we make points with
hyperbole is
but
generally
my spider sense tells me that Andre Leon
Leon
Talley
huge,
Yeah.
hugely famous, hugely influential
in that business.
in the fashion industry.
But those that aren't in the business, I just, like there's people that are
on the cover of the New York Times today. I don't know.
People still read that.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean he's big in his business in his field, but
Every single news outlet's covering it.
an
I'm
important
just-
man to be sure. But I just don't,
I
I just don't think that he.
What man to be?
If I haven't heard of him, Dove and Nicole, who's the young person that's got her finger on the pulse
you
of
got your
things.
demographics covered.
Now, if
We
you had
haven't
said Karl Lagerfeld,
Okay.
then yeah,
Okay.
heard of it. Sure.
or Ralph Lifshitz Lauren.
yeah. Lift it.
CNN.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
The
It's he's
Daily
all
Beast,
sure. I understand.
People.com.
Yeah,
Just
point
saying.
taken.
Okay.
But the fact that neither me nor Dove nor Nicole have heard of him,
It means nothing other than the fact that you guys haven't heard of him.
well, it means that one has to wonder just how much of a household name he was outside of the fashion world.
Yes, of course.
And we can, when we go downstairs after, we can certainly ask people. But
I don't think there would be a great use of time. But sounds relatively few.
we can ask David Tell. Have you ever heard of Andre Leon Talley? Huh? and
Of course.
so anyway, Dove, you are back on the road.
I'm gonna hit the road.
again.
I go to the city by the sea. And then what's it called? San
It's by the
Fran?
bay.
By the bay, baby.
By the bay. To,
City by the bay.
Cobb's
Sweet.
Comedy Club.
Yeah, Cobb's. Yeah, next month, Feb 18.
Now,
19.
do you enjoy the road?
Look, I don't know. I'm parts of it, right? I mean, you don't want to be on the road every week. I mean, the
I don't wanna be on the road any week.
any week.
You don't?
No.
No.
Really?
Yes, really.
Yes, really. Yeah, no, the road can be challenging.
I want to be downstairs with a fucking plate of roast chicken
Roast bird.
and a Cabernet.
So sweet.
Okay.
So
Well,
sweet.
then you're extraordinarily lucky that that's what you get to do most days.
Yes, that's the way to look at
Of
it.
course that's the way to look at
but
it.
the point is
Dan,
no, a
Dan
lot of
found
people,
another way to look at
a lot of people do love the road. Some people hate the road, and some people like Dove find they're sort of indifferent, I guess.
it. No, I mean, it's context, right? If you haven't been out for a while and you're going to go do a gig that you think is going to be reasonably good and reasonably well run, and it's in a decent place where you like to walk around, there are enough elements that make it work.
I mean, Dove,
do
and
I want to run to, Duluth and tear into a
that's not-
bingo hall? No.
with all due respect to our many, first of all, our Duluth listeners
I
are
don't wanna
basically
offend anybody.
carrying this whole show.
I know. No, I
Without
shouldn't have
Duluth,
said
we
that.
don't have a show.
No, you're right. I take that back. I'll issue an
That
apology
is so funny.
next week.
First of all, seriously, do you have any idea how magical and fucking lucky you are that you
Yeah.
just said that? Like, can you garner that appreciation for your life?
He can't internalize it. He can
can't.
conceptually understand what you're saying, but he can't internalize it. It's what makes him so funny, but it's his cross to bear.
Right. Look at his expression. I see you like considering.
Interesting,
Yeah.
and taking
That's
it
his
into
cross-
consideration.
That's his cross to bear. But the protagonist in his book would have the same challenge with it. I mean,
Thank you
that's
for bringing up the book
fascinating aspect
because
of
thank you for bringing up the book because, dear
Dan.
listeners, you are not pulling your weight on this book. Iris Spiro Before COVID, available on Amazon. At a minimum, read the fucking free chapters you get on Kindle.
Iris Spiro
Wait,
before
stop.
COVID.
Don't
that's right.
don't go away from this because it's an important point.
Well, it is an important point. That's why you should go to Amazon.com and just read.
No, you're
read
not going to get in. I've tried.
I understand.
I've tried
No,
over
no,
the
no,
course
no,
of
you-
20 years, Perry.
You
There's no way.
you are quite correct that you're saying I should be
There'll be an
more
acknowledgement, but-
grateful for the skills that I have.
Grateful, you should be. I mean, elated on a daily basis.
That's not human nature. Nobody's elated on a daily
Right.
basis unless they're using heroin. I mean, it's just not. It's just
You
not.
get
That's true.
to do
It's
your.
not
True, heroin
Listen
is
to me.
And even heroin will turn against you.
They're very tough.
You
Will
get
turn on you.
It'll turn on you quick.
you get to do your favorite thing at your favorite place almost daily for most of the days of your life. Do you know how fucking rare that is for people to be able to say?
But Dan's world view, it seems anchored in an aspect of his consciousness that is not communicating.
Look, I was
with
sort of
the
joking about the
concept
roast
of
chicken. It really
levity.
isn't. I mean, I enjoy the roast chicken, but it would. I
No,
was
there's some
just
truth to
making
that-
light. I
that
do enjoy
joke.
the roast chicken, but that,
You'd be complaining if they took it off the menu. Let's start.
well, they
there.
did, and I was. they put it back on. I don't know if it was due to my complaining or there was
It was.
a general outcry that was heard.
Well, Perry, there was a time where they were doing construction in the kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
and Dan was so enraged after I don't know, about 5 months, the construction was taking too long, and they were doing a podcast with somebody who had, I think maybe it was Kaplan, somebody who had won a Nobel Prize, or as a group, and they're getting into the aspect that this esteemed guest knew a great deal about, and Dan just Dan just turned to the micro and he goes, "I cannot take another panini." And because the show just became about Dan's rage associated with the fact that the kitchen is only producing paninis.
Well, those were the. You
while it
remember
was under
those dark
construction.
days.
Very dark. You were 100%
The
right.
gnome was redoing the kitchen, and it took I don't know how
I felt the
long.
Nobel Prize winner also had a point of view, but yes, you were right about.
I don't know if it was Nobel Prize, but I had the point taken.
No, yeah.
But Noam took forever to redo this kitchen, and the only thing available was
Or
were
paninis.
paninis.
Yeah. I should have added that. It's been a year since I told that.
So
story.
I mean that's probably 5-6 years ago that happened. So Noam rebuilt
right.
this kitchen because
It's like a Facebook feed. It feels like
Yeah,
yesterday.
yes. His plan was to really step up the menu here at the make this dining take it to another level, and it doesn't seem as though that's happened necessarily. I mean, to an extent, we've added the steak is good and the roast chicken, but I was expecting more.
Really?
I was expecting a real out of this world dining experience.
Yeah.
You know, the thing for me is I miss out on most of it because I don't eat meat. So there's really nothing for me to eat on the menu.
The Middle Eastern plate's pretty good.
Yeah, but I
All the
can't eat
mixed
all that
stuff.
fried stuff.
No, the
and-
Middle Eastern plate has no fried stuff.
I'm trying, speaking of like jokes and, deconstructing jokes, I have been toying with the idea of a joke about meat eating. A lot of people talk about vegetarianism. It's a very common theme in
Yes, yes,
stand-up.
yes.
But they usually take the position like, they make fun of vegetarians.
Okay.
Whereas I want to do jokes about my own struggle. Whereas I know morally the vegetarians are correct. It's hard to argue otherwise.
That's the take to make because
and
Rock
yet-
was doing 20 years ago talking about if you get your hands on a steak, eat that like it's been done.
the other way.
Been done the other way. But to do because we all feel that's the contemporary experience that nobody's explored that I haven't heard you.
I don't know that everybody has that feeling, but I think a
enough
lot of people do.
can
A lot of
relate
people
to it
do.
because we all love a burg, and then but you go, it's a cow. There's a more there is a heightened sense that these are sentient beings that are being consumed, and especially in the face of these approximated products like protein Anyway, it's a rich area because we can all relate to it, and people have not done it well
But
yet.
like the only real moral case I can make for eating meat is that it makes my life far more pleasurable, and that's of some value. If ever it's not nothing.
Well,
So-
pedophiles could argue that
They
same
could,
thing.
and I would listen to their argument. I would dismiss it because I think that it's outweighed by the.
Right.
Well, the cows would argue.
They would, and they have a hell of an argument. They would have a hell of an argument.
That's really good, though. Maybe
Peter Singer is the guy.
we had him
argue
on the
that.
show.
He's
We
the
did?
guy to argue.
Yeah, I love Peter Singer.
He's
Yes, we had. I was so
I
excited.
read his book. Yeah.
Oh,
Well, Peter Singer, refresh my memory.
they didn't know who he was. I was like, this guy is one of
Yeah.
the most important
Yeah,
ethicist philosophers
okay.
alive. And of
Yeah.
course,
Was that-
yes, you were there.
okay.
He's a professor at Princeton. He's written.
And he's a vegetarian.
yes.
or a
he's written
vegan.
No, I don't know if he's a vegan, but he's written extensively on animal rights.
But he from a real philosopher's POV.
Yeah.
He really goes deeply into a nuanced argument around the moral case against consuming animals.
Correct.
Based on it being, if the notion is that it's a sentient being, and you go, well, but it's an animal, and so it's a lower sentient being
Mm-hmm.
than me. He equivocates or he correlates the intelligence of a pig
Mm-hmm.
and that of a
3-year-old.
3-year-old, and based on the data,
Yeah.
is not a significant differential. And so, if you're going to make the argument for the ability to eat somebody based on a lesser intelligence,
Then eat a 3-year-old.
then one has to get pretty dark in their considerations if you're going to make a moral argument for consuming the animal.
That's a
Right.
funny joke to talk about eating a 3-year-old.
Yeah, relative to a pig
Uh-huh.
because of the similar intelligence
Uh-huh.
levels. Yeah,
That's
it's
good.
like- yeah,
After this, you're going to help me work out my joke about a tampon.
there you go. The moral equivalency of eating a 3. Singer's a badass.
He was amazing. I was so excited.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Dan doesn't.
I mean, to quote the great Celine Dion, it's all coming back to me now.
We had him on
stuff.
over Zoom.
Yeah, we've had especially over the pandemic, we had a lot of these kinds of people on.
Dan's
We're
crazy.
having on
Dan
David
Dan
Cho-
has a very interesting life, but he can't.
He does. I
You
do.
do.
My life's not
Yeah.
that interesting. I
Yeah,
get up,
you-
I go to the gym,
no,
I
no.
steam.
Steam. Such a steam.
I sit in the steam room for longer than any. Probably I have the club. I'm sure I have the club, right?
Future generations will look at his steam as perhaps not beaten for the next 100
I mean, the
years.
people that work there must be thinking, "Who the f- this guy?"
This guy can
fuck is
steam.
this guy?
They know. I mean,
You
they
know?
see you every day, though, practically.
Well, not every day, but when they see me and they go in that steam room and I don't
Right.
come out, and and it's like, well, he didn't come out at the end of my shift. Did he come out at the end of your shift?
How long are
They're
you
getting together after the fucking work. I not see him after my
I not
shift.
see him.
I
I not
work
see
from
him.
3 to 6.
Maybe he did. Maybe he did.
He's still in this. You not suppose he's still in there
Bob Saget.
because they're all Spanish to work. Anyway,
I picked
Yes.
up on that. That's a funny.
he go in at 2:00.
2 o'clock.
I shift he ends at 7:30. I Google him.
I googled him.
He did a David Letterman show back in 2000.
What accent is this?
No, I don't know.
Look,
What-
Generated.
there's a reason that I don't do voices and characters on stage. I
Oh,
stick
you
to the
do
jokes as
good.
written.
But you do some good impressions.
I do. Well, I do.
Yeah.
Okay.
You do an amazing Jackie
No, not
Mason.
SNL
I'm
impressions,
not
but good
amazing, but
impressions.
it's okay. I
You just
look. I
went
do the
into it a little bit.
basics.
Haven't
I do
we
the
had
basics, like
this
Rodney
conversation?
Dangerfield? I'll tell you.
There's decent Woody Allen. Yeah, good Dangerfield. Yeah.
Do it, please.
He could do a Tracy
wait.
Morgan.
do
good.
Tracy Morgan. I do a little bit of I heard the Pope quit. Times is dark. You know times is dark with the Pope. Nah, that's not good.
It's not bad.
You know times is dark with the... Nah, I'm not getting it. Because he came up to me once, this was like years ago. Probably 4 years ago, and he just comes up to me out of nowhere. I'm standing there, and he comes up to me, times is dark. The Pope quit. This was after the Pope resigned or whatever. And he goes, the Pope quit. You know times is dark when the Pope quit. I missed Thursday night lineup. And that's what he said to me, and I didn't know what he was talking about. You know, like Simon is, he's talking about like shows.
Yeah, no, I know. It's a lot of non sequiturs with him. He's an odd bird.
And Jackie Mason.
Sometimes I can get into his rhythm, but I'm not very good. So I'll tell you something. This person, this. Gentiles, they drink, but the Jews, they eat.
It's a good Mason.
It's okay.
He had a joke. He said, affirmative act. He said, if a black man should get to school with a lower score, a white should be able to.
The Jew should lower the basket.
With a lower net.
Yeah, the lower net.
Yeah.
Anyway, may he rest.
May he rest.
And his daughter, of course, Sheba, was on our show. You know Sheba.
Well, I don't know her, but certainly I know of her.
There are a lot of second-generation comedians out there.
Yeah.
Maybe Emerson, your son, will one day.
Let's hope not.
Take the
mantle.
Take the mantle.
Yeah, no. Let's hope he receives enough love, acceptance, and in what psychological circles they refer to as a holding period, enough sanity, grounded, warm sanity, that the buffer with which many humorists do not experience the world with, he will have.
Well, we certainly hope that for Emerson. You will be at Cobb's.
Cobb's, babies.
Cobb's by the Bay.
By the Bay.
On
It's a good spot. It's a good club in San Fran. On February 18 and 19.
And that's one show on and the 18th and one show on 19th.
One and two. 1 and 2. 3 shows in all.
Okay, 1 and 2.
Friday 1, Saturday
That's
2.
what I prefer. Like,
yeah, me too.
I'll tell you what I prefer: stay home and get a check. But if I have to do something, I'd rather just one. And
I'd rather do one.
I'd rather do one. I don't like.
Just
there's something about that second show.
Yeah.
I
used to be 3 on Saturday night and some.
And the audience doesn't realize they're not getting the same show.
No,
they're getting the tired version of the show.
By show 3,
by throw
they're not
3,
even close.
They're not getting the same show.
Wait, you're doing one on Friday and one on Saturday?
If there is
2 on Saturday.
Yeah,
one Friday, 2 Saturday. But there used to be. I remember working Miami Improv. It was 3 shows every Saturday, and then I don't know. There were several clubs, and I just remember hearing that and going, I have to go do the gig, but I really don't want to.
So the best show to go see is the first one.
I think so. You're the freshest.
Yeah.
I mean, the second one's probably okay.
Yeah, the second one sounds like
for an audience.
The third one's
okay.
tough.
I'm just from
They usually
a comedian perspective.
Yeah.
I hated it, and then from the audience perspective, they're getting less of a show on the third.
Well,
they're getting a tired show.
Yeah.
They're getting a tired show. Well,
no. In this case, there's no third show Saturday night. There's just 2, and that's okay. They'll both get good shows, and 1 show Friday. Not many clubs do 3 anymore.
Yeah,
right, that's what I'm saying. You're doing 1 on Friday and 2 on Saturday.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
they used to be more 3-show clubs, I think.
Yeah,
they'd
work you like a pony.
But
work you like a donkey in a field. Boy, 3 shows. Am I a donkey?
And you can't phone this shit in.
Oh.
You can't phone stand up.
No, you can't phone.
You have to be so present.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know.
I know.
You can't just be up there and like off somewhere, and then the words are coming out of your mouth. You have to be very present.
Yeah.
That's why I forced myself to host all of these shows, because I was so terrified to be on stage for so long that I was just like memorizing things, and it's like you can't.
It's a good muscle, and then you can relax into the joke, which makes it funnier. Yeah.
It's made me much more comfortable on stage and much quicker and much less like on the verge of a nervous breakdown.
Yeah, no, totally. And the more comfortable you get, it's another evolutionary thing. It's why when somebody's tense, even if the material's wonderful, the audience can't experience it as that funny because they're tight, because the performer's tight, and it's so psychological.
Totally.
Yeah. Even if the material's spot on, it's weird.
100%.
Yeah.
If it's really one of the things that I've really learned in this past year of being on stage is like, I have to be having fun.
We subconsciously experience that about one another. Nobody knows why they're getting tight and it's not funny because the math is that the joke is funny.
Yeah.
But it's that delivery, and it was so important for our evolution to intuit another person's tenseness because we were sensing whether or not they were telling the truth, whether or not there was danger, and now you can't laugh. It's odd how that's connected.
That's so interesting. Yeah.
It's real deep in us.
It is.
Yeah,
it
it's
is
real-
for sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of deep, I have this itch. You know, you figure you wipe and there's nothing left on the
Nothing,
and why is
you
it
should
still
be so
itchy?
clean. Why can't why am I still itchy?
Oh, anyway,
You should see somebody about that.
Yes,
You might need some cortisone cream.
perhaps
You might have a hemorrhoid, a small one that you can't see.
light road.
well, no, it doesn't happen all the time. It's just once in a while. It's
well.
Oh, you got a road.
no, but once in a while, there's itching even after
Cool.
what seems like a thorough. I'm sorry, Nicole.
Why are you sorry, Nicole? He fucking berated me about talking about my period once,
Oh,
and you're
God.
good
sitting
stuff.
here.
Oh,
That's
talking-
Lord.
disgusting.
Oh, Lord.
That's disgusting.
No, because you render him unable to object.
Because I'm a
You're
man,
sexual.
and men are dirty and disgusting, whereas women are
Yeah, little cherub. They're so
women
so
are
sweet, so
are
pure.
just
so clean.
yeah, it's just
They don't do that sort
don't
of
do
thing.
those sorts
They
of
don't
things.
do those sorts of things.
Oh boy.
So anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for listening to us. We wish Noam a speedy recovery from, or if assuming he's not well, but I don't think that's the case.
No,
he
I
probably
don't- I
just
don't
he
think
probably
he's-
just didn't feel like coming.
Speedy recovery from having to wire money overnight to the Cayman Islands.
Dan Naturman, Iris Beer Before COVID, available on Amazon. Periel Aschenbrand, On My Knees. And The Only Bush I Trust Is My Own, available on Amazon. Dov Davidoff, coming to a town near you.
You, baby. Road dog.
Road dog in it. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time on Live from the Table.